The clerk slid the receipt toward me like a dare. I was still tasting the third cancellation of the week, mint tea gone cold, chair across from me empty, when she said it. The handsome guy. Waiting all day, marriage. We looked at each other. He smiled like a quiet conspiracy. Okay, I said, because some days you choose momentum over dignity. 10 minutes later, a judge signed a paper that felt like a prank. I didn't know then that this stranger would become my anchor, or my witness, or the man who would stand beside me while I dismantled a kingdom built on my silence. The betrayal came later. It always does. I had spent 8 years building a company that pretended to be a family. I wrote the early checks. I took the late calls. I swallowed the compromises and called them culture. When the board courted a celebrity CEO, I welcomed him like a necessary storm. He brought polish. I brought patience. We agreed verbally, dangerously. That strategy was mine and the spotlight was his. Then he started erasing me. Calendar invites disappeared. Decisions were made in hallways that went quiet when I entered. My signature lines softened into suggestions. The numbers still bowed to me, but the room no longer did. I noticed the first real crack when my access badge failed on the executive floor. The receptionist smiled too hard. Security blamed a system refresh. I went home and didn't say a word. My husband noticed. He always did. He was good at listening, great at not interrupting. He'd been waiting all day once. Patience was his native language. When I told him, he nodded and asked one question. Who benefits? That night, I reread the trust documents I'd written years ago. Back when caution felt like paranoia. A retirement trust. Quiet, boring, uninteresting. To men who believed power only counted if it was loud. I'd seeded it slowly, legally, invisibly. Voting rights attached. Trigger conditions clear. I started preparing like a ghost. I saved emails that used my ideas without my name. I logged meeting minutes that shifted after approval. I pulled audit trails and reconciled discrepancies that no one else bothered to understand. I had dinner with former board members and listened more than I spoke. I hired a firm that specialized in silence. At home, my husband learned the language of spreadsheets, the way other men learn chess openings. He poured wine while I mapped leverage. He held the flashlight while I read footnotes. He never asked me to slow down. He only asked me to be precise. The CEO called me into his office on a Thursday. Glass walls, city like a dare behind him. You're outdated, he hissed, finally tired of pretending. We're done here. I replied quietly, understood. That was the moment the retirement trust activated its voting rights. By Monday morning, the board convened an emergency meeting. The agenda was thin. The air was not. Someone asked, too late, who had authorized the motion. Another asked, panicked, who controlled the proxy. The answer moved around the table like a blade. Who just fired the person who owned 76% of the shares? I watched the CEO's face learn new colors. The confidence drained first, then the contempt. He tried charm. He tried volume. He tried to laugh it off like a misunderstanding. I let him speak. I let the room feel the weight of his ignorance. I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. I presented the evidence in stages, the appropriation of strategy, the sidelining emails, the breach of governance, the clause he'd never read because it wasn't shiny. The vote passed without drama. Power prefers efficiency. Afterward, alone in the hallway, he tried to bargain. He tried to threaten. He said my name like it was a key he could still turn. I looked at him the way you look at a building after it's been condemned. Fond. Distant. Finished. At home, my husband cooked. The smell grounded me. We ate without ceremony. I told him it was over. He nodded. He washed the plates like it mattered. Weeks later, the company stabilized. The press found a new story. I took a smaller office with thicker walls. The board listened now, not because they loved me, but because they understood me. Sometimes I think about the clerk and her reckless suggestion, about the way a stranger's patience intersected my worst day and rerouted my life. I think about how betrayal clarifies, how silence, when structured, becomes a weapon, how justice doesn't have to shout to be heard. I didn't marry for romance. I married for timing, and when they tried to erase me, I didn't fight the ink. I changed the paper.